I'm Jeremy Lafredo for Rebel News in New York City. And New York City is home to the headquarters of the Rockefeller Foundation. The Rockefeller Foundation, the multinational philanthropic arm built from the wealth and power of oil baron John D. Rockefeller, has given more than $14 billion in grants to various causes surrounding pharmaceuticals, tech, and energy. The National Science Foundation, a U.S. government science foundation, recently received a 3-year, multi-million-dollar grant from the Rockefeller Foundation. What's the grant for? To find innovative ways to psychologically nudge, or in their words, find new communication strategies to convince more people to get the COVID vaccine. Named the Mercury Project, the initiative aims to find ways to boost COVID-19 vaccination rates and counter public health mis- and disinformation in 17 countries worldwide. The nations targeted range from developing countries like the Ivory Coast, Ghana, and Haiti to developed countries like the United States. It's interesting that the U.S. government is admitting that uptake in poor countries is a problem because mainstream media has spent the last few years explaining that there was a vaccine apartheid and that these countries were desperate for COVID vaccines. The supposed need for this project was manufactured by the WHO, characterizing inaccurate health information as an infodemic, and the U.S. Surgeon General labeling conspiracy theories around COVID as an urgent threat. And obviously, threats must be countered and eliminated. Some of the strategies the group will be carrying out will be partnering with local authorities and secondary schools to help students identify COVID vaccine misinformation. But as many sober, clear-eyed people understand, what was once considered COVID misinformation is now considered scientific fact. They'll also be equipping trusted messengers with communication strategies to increase COVID vaccine demand. Many wouldn't be surprised to know that these methods, while the Rockefeller Foundation is attempting to perfect them, have long been used throughout the pandemic in order to manipulate people to make certain health decisions. For example, in the beginning of the pandemic, the WHO contracted the notorious PR firm Hill & Knowlton Strategies. Hill & Knowlton is best known for its role in manufacturing false court testimonies on behalf of the government to drum up support for the Gulf War. In 2020, the WHO paid the PR firm to identify, quote, micro-influencers, macro-influencers, and hidden heroes who could covertly promote the WHO's advice and messaging on social media, and also protect and promote the organization's image as a COVID-19 authority. The WHO also named infamous anti-conspiracy theory crusader Cass Sunstein as the chair of their technical advisory group on behavioral insights to, quote, increase vaccine acceptance and uptake in the context of COVID-19. Sunstein was former President Barack Obama's head of Office of Information and Regulatory Affairs, where he was responsible for overseeing policies relating to information quality. In 2008, Sunstein wrote a paper proposing that governments employ teams of covert agents to cognitively infiltrate online dissident groups and websites which advocate false conspiracy theories about the government. In the paper, Sunstein and his co-authors write, "Our principal claim here involves the potential value of cognitive infiltration of extremist groups designed to introduce informational diversity into such groups and expose conspiracy theories as such." The government-led operations described in Sunstein's paper would work to increase faith in government policy and policymakers and undermine the credibility of conspiracy theorists who question their motives. They also recommend government agencies maintain a vigorous counter-misinformation establishment to counter conspiracy theory groups opposed to government policies that aim to protect the common good. According to Sunstein, who now works for the WHO, some of this would be accomplished by sending undercover agents or government-paid third parties into online social networks or even real space groups. Sunstein also advocated that the government pay independent experts to publicly advocate on the government's behalf, whether on television or social media. He says this is effective because people don't trust the government as much as they trust people who they believe are independent. While sinister, the legality of such policies in the US are in a legal gray zone, which is surprising considering that Sunstein is a constitutional law expert regarded as one of the best in the country. As put forward in a report by the Congressional Research Service, illegal domestic propaganda is defined by the U.S. Government Accountability Office, or GAO, to mean covert propaganda. By covert propaganda, the GAO means information which originates from the government but is unattributed and made to appear as though it came from a third party. Because the WHO is a multinational organization and not a U.S. government agency, covert cognitive infiltration policies could be considered legal. But certainly if the U.S. Science Foundation, along with the Rockefeller Foundation, carried out such propaganda operations as Project Mercury plans to, it very well could be considered illegal, judging by Congress's definition of illegal propaganda. For Rebel News in New York City, I'm Jeremy Lafredo. If you don't think the corrupt WHO should be exercising its power over supposedly sovereign nations, go to nopandemictreaty.com and sign our petition. That's No Pandemic Treaty.